The ANC says the party will announce a new date for when nominations will open for national leadership positions. It comes ahead of the party's December elective conference. The ANC was meant to start the process today, but however, this failed to happen.
You see, we closed renewals. We extended renewals and closed them on the 3rd. On the very 3rd, when we closed these renewals, we're also having a program of Letsema out in Delmas and many other competing activities of the organization. So as it stands, we are not starting with our BGMs to nominate as of today. The Khalima process would have envisaged us to start on the 7th. But it is not the electoral committee that does audits. That is done by another unit of the ANC called organizing. They get files, they reconcile, and all of that. Because
meanwhile, the ANC says it welcomes the return of the party's Mpumalanga treasurer, Mandla Msibi, after criminal charges against him were dropped. Msibi and 5 co-accused were charged with the murder of Sindela Lubisi and Dingan Ngwenya and the attempted murder of Sfiso Mbila in August last year at a Chisanyama in Mbombela. With the NPA provisionally dropping charges, Msibi returned to his position and role within the ANC.
So withdrawal means removal. So the step-aside guidelines don't say anyone where charges have been removed from must remain stepping aside, even when they are not charged. Why will Comrade Mandla Msibi step aside when he's not charged? He acceded to the step-aside guidelines because he was a charged person. Now he's no longer a charged person. It means he is now free to fulfill and perform his roles in the organization. And so is Comrade Bongo. Charges are withdrawn. So I'm sure in the special NEC this Sunday, we'll be meeting with him. He's now free to perform. So now, stepping aside does not mean that you are expelled.
While the looming nomination process has brought to the fore the debate over the role of women in political leadership positions, somebody who would know all too well about the difficulties women face is former MP Dr. Makhosi Khoza. Dr. Khoza, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Of course, this is a crucial time for the ANC as they enter this process of making nominations, and often it is the men that will make the headlines, it is the men that will dominate the conversations, and yet we know that women form a formidable section of the ANC's membership.
Absolutely, Kathy. You know, this is a very crucial moment for us as women. It's not just a matter of the ANC. And obviously, given the fact that the political parties are so divided, I do think that we should take a keen interest on what happens with the ANC. And I wouldn't like a situation where women are overlooked because they once had a husband who was severely compromised. I mean, we are tired of being shadows of men. I'm hoping that the ANC are going to seriously consider a woman candidate.
Do you think the ANC at all sets the tone for what happens in other political parties?
You know, to a very large extent, you see in South Africa what you have is a united minority against a divided majority. And the reality is that whether we like it or not, the truth is people simply do not trust new political formations. They would rather stay away than voting for another political party. I'm not talking about everybody else, of course, but a large chunk of people, a significant number of voters, they don't go out to vote. The ANC does set the tone to a very large extent. And I can tell you, as somebody who has bent their fingers, I left the ANC in 2017, and I can tell you, at least in the ANC, as a woman, I had to say. And they had to listen to me. In other political environments, it's not the same as in the ANC. And I do think that the ANC has a very progressive constitution when it comes to women. because it stipulates that there has to be a 50% women representation in the structures of the ANC, leadership structures of the ANC, and we don't see that in other political parties. Of course, I'm not talking about tokenism, but I am talking about the numbers matter. We must not lie to ourselves. If we have women, it's much better than when we don't have men. And that is why people were very cross with me when I celebrated the appointment of Nomusa Dube as the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. I honestly don't sweat the small stuff. I think we have more things that unite us as women than that which divide us as women.
When we look at what has come out of the provincial elective conferences, we have seen quite a number of women, of course, joining then the leadership positions, at least provincially. How does this translate then into what's likely to happen at the end of the year, given the central role that branches also have to play? And one has to ask the question about what is the psychology of the members of branches and their approach to female leadership?
You know, if there is one thing that we did wrong in South Africa, it was to do away with the Women's Coalition. Because to me, I really do think that gender issues are cross-cutting. And it's very important to have a formidable force that is going to also act as a support system for women. It's very easy for women to get, to suffocate once they get into the positions of power. Because I can tell you, I'm talking from experience, it is very difficult as a woman to be able to push your agenda and succeed. The woman that I know succeeded in doing whatever she wanted to do and really excelled in is Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. When she put her foot down on the cigarette saga, she was like very clear. She had a very clear intent. I do think that as women, we really have to find each other and start supporting each other. We must not suffer from exceptionalism. When one is suffering somewhere, you think, oh, no, that's not my issue. It's the issue of that woman or whatever. I really do think that women must understand that when they get elected into positions of power, as women, we have higher expectations of them than the general members of the public. We are looking at that woman to facilitate change, to be a champion of change and to drive a pro-gender agenda. And that's not, unfortunately, happening as much as we would like to see it.
We live in a country where over 50% of the population is women. So it really should be a no-brainer that this would find itself reflected in terms of the leadership landscape, including within political organizations. Yet we seem very far from that. Why is that the case?
You see, patriarchal battles are very difficult because you are dealing with this phenomenon which can be very subjective, called the love, It's not like the same way as when you are fighting racism, you go out there, you fight it and so forth. Here you are fighting a system that you may be a victim of even when you are in your home with your lover in bed. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to fight those battles, and we shouldn't be fighting these battles alone. We need to be tactical as women and understand at what point do we converge and fight these battles. Like in this case, if there is a candidate, a woman candidate, a woman president candidate, I really don't see why women should really be voting along party lines. They should really be seriously considering our own agenda as women, because for as long as we suffer from this exceptional thing and as long as we get swallowed up by other political agendas and forget ourselves, we will always be complaining. Women can make a difference, and I can tell you, I've seen that. I've seen Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma doing it. I've seen her even changing the face of Home Affairs, for goodness sake. And it's women that are major beneficiaries of all the reforms that she championed.
It's the second time that you're mentioning her. Of course, we know that in the run-up to Nasrec, she was one of the key contenders against President Cyril Ramaphosa. Do you think this time around she will be a candidate that is nominated for that top position? And what are the chances of success?
You know, let me tell you, the truth is, you know very well, Katie, I'm not ANC. I have to make that very clear. I'm not the ANC. But given our stage of political development in this country, I take a keen interest in what happens in the ANC. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, you must remember that she only lost by a very, very narrow margin. Very, very narrow. Very few women can be able to achieve that. And we must not forget that we are talking about somebody who has been the Minister of International Relations. We're talking about a minister who has been the leader of the AU. So, you know, that experience comes in very handy. And I do think that as women, we need to stop sweating the small stuff. If Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma gets nominated, or any other woman who is as capable, I mean, I wouldn't mind putting my vote against that woman. Because we need this change, and we need this change today, not tomorrow. Our children, they really need good role models. They must not think that the political space is a space of men. Women, if you are a woman, you are only there as a victim. We need to overcome this victim mentality and start really seeing the best in ourselves, because it's not the shortage of women, capable women leaders that we have a problem with. We have a problem of men who have captured. You know, we talk about a captured state, but I can tell you the politics in South Africa has been captured by the male gender.
Dr. Makhosi Khoza, I think many people would agree with you on that sentiment.